All right. We'll go to next phone call. Potomac, Maryland. Richard on the independent line. Good morning.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I just want to go back to 1999. Y'all repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, basically allowing investment bankers to play with commercial bankers, the documents that they generate. I mean, the average American has a commercial account as far as retirements and mortgages. Average American do not have an investment account. And y'all say these complicated documents that American people don't understand, but basically all y'all do is unregulated commercial. Y'all let unregulated people deal with regulated documents to put us in this situation.
Congressman?
So the question is
it that the blaming Republicans for this unregulated situation?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I remember this issue coming up a couple times during the course of the hearings, and I would ask the proponents of these allegations to say, well, A, can you point to the number of times other than the Glass-Steagall provision where regulations have been lessened over the last 10 or dozen years, and they really never can cite any examples. And B, I can say, well, then if we didn't have this provision in law right now, what would have occurred during this crisis? Because as you know, what actually happened was the Fed was actually doubled down, or they consolidated a number of these institutions, and that was actually helped to facilitate at least under the Fed's approach with these banks moving out of this crisis that we're in right now. So had you not had it, they would not have the Fed would not have the authority to do basically what they did to try to pull us out of it. So I don't know that Glass-Steagall and the repeal of that was necessarily what brought us to where we are. What brought us to where we are is a whole host of other problems. One of the callers touched upon them earlier with the GSEs, with the federal government sort of setting goals and priorities and actually pressures on the private sector to go into certain areas, subprime mortgages. That all came about through various other regulations from Washington. Failures of the regulators. We talked about the OTS. We didn't talk about AIG yet right now. Failure of the regulators to do their job to see what was going on over AIG. So you had a whole host of problems. I would say that the callers focus on this one area is probably a de minimis aspect of what brought us to where we are right now.
We're talking with Scott Garrett, who's a Republican in New Jersey. He sits on the conference committee negotiating financial regulations bill. They met yesterday. They will continue to meet today and tomorrow. Today's coverage on C-SPAN will be live on C-SPAN 3. We'll join the conference in progress. They begin their work around 11 a.m.
Yeah, 11.
And so you can tune into C-SPAN 3 to see that. Brownsburg, Indiana. Candace on the Republican line. Good morning.
Hi. My question is, with all the bills that have come up in the recent years, what's upsetting to me is there are things that Congress agrees with, but they're in such a big bill that you don't get any progress made because not everything could be agreed on. Why can't the bills be smaller so the points that you agree on can be passed and they can go through?
That's an excellent question, and there is no good answer to that other than that's not the way the majority wants to do it. You know, on this bill, some 1,500 pages, on Thursday we began our hearing, and everybody on the majority side was opining how great the bill was. So when it got to me, I said, can I have a show of hands of anyone here who has actually read the 1,500 pages plus the 300 pages that was just added several hours before? Nobody raised their hands that they read the bill. And I think that goes to Candace's comment. If you haven't even read the bill...
And have you read the bill?
I've read the sections now that we're dealing with of the bill. But if you haven't read it, how can you say this is a great thing? So Candace is right. We should have them small enough so everybody can read them, and then, as she would point out, come to agreements on and move on with those parts.
You said that the conference committee will deal with corporate governance today. Is that the first issue on the agenda?
I believe so. It's see how Barney brings that up, executive compensation, and then the funding mechanism. Your next question is what's coming else besides that? Funding mechanism for the SEC, and there goes. Come to think of that, goes to one of my points before. We had all these failures at the SEC, right? They didn't see the Madoff situation. They didn't see the regulation of the banks that are under the institutions under them. They failed there. And what are we going to do to deal with that? Well, we're going to reward them. We're going to say that they're going to now be able to be self-funded, in essence, not go through the normal appropriation process and oversight of Congress in the future, so they can get basically, I don't want to overstate the case, as large as they want to without any more oversight as far as the funding aspect of it. This is what the SEC has always wanted. Do you reward the type of behavior that we've come out of the SEC in the past? I don't think so.
Los Angeles. Brian on the Democratic line. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Representative Great. Sorry,
Garrett.
Mr. Roman. Garrett.
That's me.
I have two simple questions for you. I'm listening to you saying how things are deregulated, has been deregulated for many years now, but it's sounding as if you're saying that this new administration is the cause for all of this, and you know just as well as everyone else knows that it started many years before this.
Right.
Congressman.
Right, yeah, and let me be clear if I wasn't clear. I did not say that there's been a lot of deregulation over the last dozen years. I would suggest that there has not been a lot of deregulation. I would say that there was a lot of misregulation over the last several years. The one issue I guess I'm talking about a lot right now is the GSEs. There was a lot of bad regulations with the GSEs. That's why we need to fix it. And the caller, Brian, was right. That was done during both administrations. I've been here for 7 years now. I've been calling for trying to fix that since I first came here 7.5 years ago. So let's try to regulate that in a good way. Let's try to even get rid of it so we don't have this potential systemic risk going forward. There was only a few of us who were making that call, and now all of a sudden people say, oh yeah, that may have been a good thing to do. So yeah, I admit that there was problems with Democrats and there was problems with Republicans as far as the regulations over years. We can spend a whole hour pointing finger, blame on them. I don't want to do all that, although I could. But let's go forward in how to fix it. There's nothing in this bill to fix a lot of these areas.